on. Where is everybody today?
I honestly don't know.
I don't know. We're failing at this. So
This is really bad.
Intro on our own.
How can we do that?
I'm so bad at this.
No, we can't.
Okay,
Let's just.
This is SportsZone.
Hello and welcome back to SportsZone. This is our NFL segment, Going for Two. I'm joined by Justin. So a week ago, Super Bowl 52 was played between the Eagles and the Patriots. We shared previously our thoughts of how we thought the game was going to go. Played out a little bit differently, a lot more higher scoring. The Eagles coming out victorious 41-33, getting their city's first Super Bowl championship, vanquishing Tom Brady and Bill Belichick's quest for a sixth title. Justin, I guess we'll just quickly get some of your reactions from the game. Nick Foles, I think, exceeded expectations. The defense that we thought was going to play a bigger role in the game didn't really play much of a role, except maybe the Eagles at the end of the game. But what are your sort of reactions from this game?
Like you were saying, biggest reaction, the defenses didn't hold up. You had probably two of the top five defenses in the NFL going at each other. You thought it would be we both thought it would be a little bit less scoring. You know, I predicted 24-21. I think you predicted around the same. So we didn't get that. We got an all-time great shootout, 41-33. Nick Foles coming out on top. He was dialed in from the jump. He looked like he couldn't miss. Third down conversions, he was just on fire. Running game was stout. LeGarrette was, like he always is, a beast going up the middle. And Doug Peterson's made gutsy calls all throughout the season, all throughout the playoffs, going forward on the fourth downs, calling some trick plays, even though Nick Foles called that Philly. And then, the Patriots, contrary to popular belief that Belichick can make the adjustment at halftime, just didn't make them. He didn't make them. The lack of a pass rush on their side kind of showed. And in the end, the Brandon Graham fumble turned out to be the one sack and the only second turnover of the game. So it was an exciting game. It was just not what I was expecting.
Certainly not, but I think definitely we can agree one of the better Super Bowls that we've seen in the past couple years. And I think we'll start with some of the fallout from the winning team with the Eagles. Now they've got Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles on the books. They've got Carson Wentz sort of recapping his knee reconstruction with the ACL and MCL tears that he has. What do you think the Eagles are going to do going forward with Foles? Because there was rumors even before the Super Bowl was played that they were looking to trade Foles. What do you think the Eagles do with Nick Foles?
Knowing the NFL and how cutthroat it is, they probably just trade him. I personally would keep him. I mean, it's the NFL. You can get hurt in an instant like Carson Wentz did this year. There's no question that Carson Wentz is your starter moving forward. But I don't see why you wouldn't have a good quality backup that could win big games for you. But it's the NFL. They value picks. They value youth. His value's never going to be higher. You might be able to get a third-round pick for him. I know the Browns are looking for a quarterback. The Jets are always looking for a quarterback, so maybe one of those two teams will be willing to give one up. He's only making $7 million a year. So even if you do bring him back, it's not going to break the bank. But I do think they'll end up trading him in the long run.
Interesting, yeah. Cutthroat nature of the NFL. And speaking of the cutthroat nature of the NFL, I think we'll transition and talk about probably the biggest storyline coming out of the game, not even related to the Eagles at all. It was Malcolm Butler and that situation of what happened there. He played, I think, one snap on a punt in the second quarter, didn't play at all. Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia have sort of been dodging the question after the game, not really much known there, but Justin, what's your take on the Butler benching and sort of the fallout of what this means for the Patriots?
My bigger problem with the Butler benching is you could have told the guy an hour before the game. I think telling him during the national anthem is what makes it really bad. It's more so, and nobody else knowing why the decision was made, when it was made is my bigger question. I don't mind the move. I give Belichick some clout as a Patriots fan. He got me 5 Super Bowls. He's taken me to 8. I'm not going to question his decision. It's not like Butler's been playing great all year. Yes, he's played 98% of the snaps, but he showed some sign of slippage. And plus, if you go back to the offseason last year, he really wasn't in their long-term plans. They were thinking about trading him for Brandon Cooks. Then they didn't want to re-sign him. And then, they signed Stephon Gilmore to whatever $64 million deal he got. So it's not surprising. It's just when you see the game being played out the way it is, you question maybe you would have stopped him, but it didn't look like Nick Foles was going to be stopped. The pass rush, the secondary just wasn't playing as well as a whole. Even Stephon Gilmore didn't play well in the first half. Devin McCourty slipped on that Zach Ertz touchdown catch. So there were some plays to be had, even with Malcolm Butler being on the bench. They just didn't make them.
And sort of sticking with the Patriots for our sort of final thoughts in this aftermath of the Super Bowl, it was sort of conventional knowledge that going into the Super Bowl, it would be the last games with the Patriots for defensive coordinator Matt Patricia and offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Well, half of that held up to the bargain. Matt Patricia is the new head coach of the Detroit Lions, and Josh McDaniels, despite the Indianapolis Colts calling a press conference to announce him as the new head coach, he backs out. Even though some staff was hired with the belief that he was going to be there, he backs out and will return to New England. There's a lot of, suggestions, conspiracy theories about sort of what's going on between the Colts and the Patriots. McDaniels sort of reasserting the Patriots' heel role in the NFL. What is your take on this McDaniels situation?
My take is it's not a Patriots season if there isn't a conspiracy or some type of gate. We can call this McDaniels gate or something like that. Personally, I don't like the move. Not so much because he left the Colts job, is that he brought assistants who signed contracts and probably moved their families and stuff. I mean, if they did move, I wouldn't have a problem with it because, he's being forced to make this decision during the playoffs while he's also planning for the next team. I think this speaks to a larger problem of the NFL coaching window. It should be off-season, before the free agency period. So, if you're in the playoffs, you don't have to make that decision. Now, with the assistants being there, I wouldn't have gone back on my word. I get you probably don't feel comfortable about that, but you've already told, these 4, 5, 6, however many people that you're going to be moving there with your family, and they're doing the same. So you can't leave them high and dry like that. But this also speaks to the issue probably of Andrew Luck more than anything. I think if Luck is 100% healthy, McDaniel stays, I think we have to raise the question is how healthy is Luck? Will he be able to play next season? Is this going to be a long-term injury? What's his health like? So there's a lot of factors in there. I don't necessarily 100% agree with the move for McDaniels. As a Patriots fan, I'm sure I'm happy that he's going to stay my coordinator. Maybe this succession plan to Belichick. I don't know. Nobody knows what that man. I don't even think he knows, but he thinks he made the best move for his family. So I have to at least respect that aspect of it. So.
And those sort of are the big storylines coming out of the Super Bowl. We may update intermittently as the rest of the semester goes, off-season news, maybe draft news as it happens. But this is probably our last football-related going for 2 of the semester. So thanks for watching and stick around for more SportsZone.
Hi, welcome back to SportsZone. This is Throwing It Up. I'm Justin. This is Daniel. We're going to talk about what's going on in the NBA so far. So Daniel, last Thursday we had the NBA trade deadline. Really hectic day throughout the NBA. Huge ramifications for title contention and playoff picture. Let's start off with the Cavs. They pretty much overhauled their roster, sending out 6 players: Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas, Derrick Rose. They brought in Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr., George Hill. What do you make of what they're doing, what their plan is going forward for these last 29, 30 games before the playoffs?
Well, I think they really improved the roster. They brought in Rodney Hood, who's a good wing and actually one of the better three-point shooters in the league. He's very good. And they also brought in Jordan Clarkson, who's a good guard who can score, who is probably going to split some time with George Hill, who they also acquired, who's a pretty solid player. And Larry Nance Jr. should provide some minutes as a power forward as well. But honestly, I think it had a lot to do with some of the locker room issues that they had, Isaiah Thomas was clashing with a lot of people. He kind of had a big ego, and he was wanting a lot of money this summer anyways, a new contract. And the Cavs, clearly didn't want to re-sign him. I didn't think that they would, even when they traded him when they traded Kyrie Irving. But this is a big culture change. I think it's good. I think there will be less drama in the locker room, and I think they're more likely to make the NBA Finals with this team. But it really goes back to the Kyrie trade. And I've said it before. If you have $1, you don't want to trade for two 50-cent pieces. You know, you want to trade $1 for $1. You want to trade Kyrie for another All-Star. That's why I feel like they really botched the Paul George potential trade. They really almost brought him in, and LeBron's still pretty upset about that. They could have brought in Jimmy Butler, who was on the trade market, but instead they got an injured 5'9" scorer who all he could do is score. So yeah, I guess that's where the Cavs stand now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on the Kyrie trade. He had 2 years. You didn't need to trade them. I also agree, like, this puts them in a better position. Moving forward, it also gets them younger. So post-LeBron, if he does decide to leave, you know, they have that option. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into a couple aspects of this trade. So the Lakers are able to free up cap space for 2018.
Yeah.
The summer, I know there was a report going out earlier that they were punting until next free agency. But what do you think this means for them moving forward into the summer with this added cap room?
Clearly, Magic Johnson has a win-now mentality. He feels like he can really sway free agents. You know, he's one of the greatest players of all time. And I think he's going to try to sign LeBron James and Paul George this summer. You know, LeBron actually has 2 houses in LA and has, you know, spent a lot of his summers there. And Paul George is a native of LA. So I feel like Lakers management really thinks they have a chance to sign them. And with all this free cap room, they actually have a good shot at it. And I know LeBron and Paul George were thinking about teaming up this past year. Well, they have a chance to do it in LA next year. We'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It would be the most Cleveland thing if they created the cap space that lured LeBron away from Cleveland until LA. But the final piece of this Cleveland trade that I wanted to get to is Dwayne Wade finally gets his homecoming back to Miami. He played Friday night, had, I believe, 6 points and a huge block shot. Your thoughts on Wade going back to Wade County?
As a big Miami fan and Miami native, I'm really happy to have him back. Can't wait to buy that Miami Vice jersey. Unfortunately, it's sold out till June, so I'm going to have to wait.
June.
Yeah,
Wow.
Lots of people are buying that Wade jersey. You know, and on a basketball standpoint, I think he's not only going to bring leadership to that locker room, but he's also going to provide a good scoring boost off the bench and a guy that you could give the ball to in the clutch. Big thing the Heat were missing was a real shot creator and clutch player at the end of games. Dion Waiters was sort of that guy before he got injured for the rest of the year. But now we're going to have Wade definitely playing in the clutch moments of games and hopefully, you know, making some clutch shots for us as we try to make the postseason this season.
Yeah, I agree. Wade was my favorite player growing up. Flash is his nickname. Even as a Knicks fan, I loved him, and I'm happy he's finally back. Him and Pat Riley, you know, mending those fences is huge. I don't think he should have left. It should have been one of those Kobe, just play with, you know, your one team for forever. Another small trade. Knicks were involved in a 3-team trade. They got Emmanuel Mudiay shipped out Doug McDermott to the Mavs, and then the Nuggets got Devin Harris. Your thoughts on that 3-team trade?
You know, I think it's really not going to improve the Knicks or any of the teams in the trade. It's a pretty minor trade. And honestly, you know, focusing on Emmanuel Mudiay, I expected a lot more from him when he was drafted. In fact, a lot of people thought the Knicks were going to draft him instead of Porzingis. And, you know, fans kind of wanted him. And they booed Porzingis, obviously, and now look how that turned out. He's their best player and an all-star. But who knows? Maybe Mudiay is going to get it turned around. He's probably going to get a lot more minutes now and not have, like, the pressure of, like, Jamal Murray and Gary Harris, you know, outplaying him. Now he's got a much weaker backcourt in New York, so he has a chance to shine more. And we'll see if he can, you know, improve as a scorer. His percentages from the field are pretty low. And Devin Harris to the Nuggets, you know, he's a role player at this point in his career. He's pretty old, but maybe it'll help them make a playoff push and have a pretty solid role player coming off the bench. We'll see if they can make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty minor trade, but I think it gives Denver the backup point guard they've been needing. A good shooter can play off the ball with Jokic or the Joker. But transitioning off of your points about the Knicks, big story in New York. Porzingis tears his ACL, his left ACL. His left knee's been a problem for him throughout his career. He's probably going to miss, the next 9 to 10 months at the minimum. Your thoughts on his injury, his ability to come back, and what you think a team like New York should probably look to do in his absence?
I mean, the Knicks are really in a tough spot. You're kind of in no man's land. You're not bad enough to get a really high pick. You're not good enough to make the playoffs, even when Porzingis was healthy. Clearly, I don't think they can, build a team solely around Porzingis. I don't think he's quite good enough to become like a superstar. I know he's in his third year and he can still develop, but clearly the Knicks are going to need another all-star type player to bring in if they want to, make the playoffs and make a run. But unfortunately, they just don't have that much cap space. They gave Joakim Noah that gigantic deal, and it really didn't make any sense. He's getting paid like 17, 18 mil a year, and the Knicks are in a tough spot. But hopefully Porzingis doesn't decrease in his ability. I don't think he will. He didn't rely that much on athleticism because he was a good shooter and he was he had nifty footwork. But I guess we'll see how they bounce back next year, because right now it looks like, their playoff chances are definitely done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're done for the year. I think in the long term this helps them as a positive, because it decreases, it increases their draft chances this year. Yeah. It makes next year probably a lost season, which they probably would have done something stupid and tried to make a push for the playoffs. They could get 2 top lottery picks. I also think it could be positive because Porzingis' natural position at the 5. I know he wants to play the 4, but I think this will push him to the 5 with probably some loss of athleticism to some degree. So that's kind of my take. It's not gloom and doom. There's a chance they might get Michael Porter Jr. with his injury history pushing him down in the draft. So there's some hope at the end of the tunnel for this team. It's just going to be another 2 or 3 years away. But that's going to do it for us. That's going to do it for us today. I'm Justin. This is Daniel. That's been throwing it up. See you guys next time on SportsZone.
Welcome back to SportsZone with your favorite baseball segment, Getting to Third Base. I'm joined by Kristen and Aviva. And today, we're going to talk about a myriad of topics. First, the Players Union has been hinting at a strike coming up. Kristen, how do you feel about that happening?
So I think that it's definitely warranted for some of the players to feel this way, that they need to go on strike. There are so many major league teams that still have not signed anybody this offseason. And there are a lot of big-name players who have yet to be signed. Jake Arrieta is a big-name pitcher in the MLB who still hasn't been signed. And then Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas both also haven't been signed, which is really surprising to a lot of people. And I think especially the Mets needed somebody to play infield, and a lot of people thought that they were going to go after a big name like Moustakas or Hosmer, but they took a different route and they signed Todd Frazier. And Todd Frazier took a pay cut to play with the Mets. He's taking a lot less money than the Yankees were paying him. But in that situation, I think it was definitely warranted for him to be paid less money, because he is a very average player in the MLB. He doesn't really exceed any expectations. So I think in that case, it was warranted for him to be paid less money. But I think in the case of a lot of these big-name players who still haven't been given contracts yet, I think it's going to be very interesting to see going forward if the dysfunction continues.
It really is very interesting to take a look at it in the context that when the CBA is up, the players will probably ask for it to be redone and the owners will be hesitant. So who knows what's going to happen down the road. It's been a slow offseason. But yesterday, one player did sign. Yu Darvish signs with the Cubs. Viva, tell me more about that.
I think it's a really good deal for the Cubs. Yu Darvish got 6 years, $126 million. I think he's really gonna help the Cubs pitching staff get to the next level, win the NL Central. Yu Darvish played on the Texas Rangers for 4 years before last year going to the LA at the trade deadline. People think that he was tipping pitches during the postseason, so I think he wants to redeem himself in playing for the Cubs And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he's going to elevate that team.
Definitely stepping into the ace role that Jake Arrieta left open when he left. You know, this has been such a slow offseason, but as well, we do have the Miami Marlins really blowing up their team by trading away Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, and Marcelo Ozuna. Now, a few weeks ago, before the winter break, I did predict that Stan would go to LA, and I would like to apologize. I didn't know that Jeter would sell him to New York for so little money and prospects, so I take that on me. But the Brewers sweeping in and really saving Miami from being made fun of for giving them a decent prospect overhaul in exchange for Christian Yelich, a great player. And it'll be interesting to see how Miami continues to rebuild, already trading away 4 of their top 5 players, JT Realmuto being the last one left. So that's going to be interesting how he plays out, considering he demands the trade. Now, that's all we got today from Getting to Third Base. Stay tuned for SportsZone next.
Welcome back to SportsZone. This is your favorite segment, Thumbles, where we talk about the good, the bad, and ugly in the world of sports and the world at large. I'm going to start it off. Thumbs up that there's 46 days until opening day in baseball, which is really exciting. Thumbs up to the AU women's basketball team. They won yesterday against Lehigh, so now they're 12-0 in the Patriot League, so they're doing really well. Thumbs middle to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're not doing too well. They traded Dwayne Wade to the Heat and Isaiah Thomas to the Lakers, so we'll see what happens in Cleveland. And thumbs down to the weather. Well, we've been having some rainy weather, and who wants to be outside in this weather? So, and then here's Daniel.
So I'm going to give a huge thumbs up to the Philadelphia Eagles for winning their first Super Bowl, and to Nick Foles, a guy that pretty much everybody doubted once went down, and he won Super Bowl MVP and really was a big reason why they won the Super Bowl. I'm going to give a thumbs down to the Cavaliers, actually, because they essentially traded Kyrie Irving, who's a young budding superstar, for, Jordan Clarkson, a Nets first-round pick that's not going to be that high, and, Ante Zizic. I mean, when you look at it like that, the trade really didn't go well. And a thumbs up to Danny Ainge. He just keeps making good trades for the Celtics, Not only did he participate in that Cavaliers trade, but the trade to go down in the draft because they knew they wanted Jason Tatum was huge, because Fultz for the Philadelphia 76ers has been awful and has had a shoulder issue. And now they have an extra draft pick for this coming year that they got from the Sixers because they traded down last year. So Danny Ainge just continues to prove that he's a phenomenal GM, and we'll see how the Celtics do in the playoffs.
All right, I'm going to give a thumbs up to spring training. We are almost at spring training. It's only a few weeks away, so that's very exciting. I'm going to give a huge thumbs up to St. John's basketball. They first beat Duke, then Villanova, and then Marquette yesterday. They are just playing really, really well, and especially after losing 11 straight games throughout January, it's really hard to pick yourself up and compete against these really strong teams. So thumbs up to Chris Mullen. He's been coaching them really, really well. And thumbs up to Shamori Pons, who I think is one of the best, if not the best guards in the Big East Conference. He dropped 44 against Duke. He averages 40 points a game in his last 5 games. And he played really, really well yesterday against Marquette. He broke the home scoring record at Carnesecca Arena, which was awesome. So big thumbs up to St. John's. Hopefully they can keep winning and make some noise in their conference going into the tournament. And that's all I have today. Here's Vince.
So I will throw a thumbs down to the turnout today. It wasn't quite what we were expecting in terms of people coming out for SportsZone, but in sports-related stuff, I'll throw a thumbs up to the AU women's basketball team. They are continuing to carry the title of best team on campus through the winter into spring, undefeated in the league. Hopefully we'll be hosting a couple of games in the Patriot League tournament. That's pretty nice. I'll throw a thumbs up to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, sparing us more Tom Brady gloating and Patriot fans just surfacing up like termites and cockroaches. So that is always good. I'll throw thumbs down to Arsenal. They lost over the weekend to bitter rivals Tottenham, and my brother, who's a Tottenham fan, was quick to remind me that. They just didn't get the job done in Wembley. They were on the back foot. Could have been 4 or 5-0. Luckily, it was only 1-0. Didn't really create much. All the hoopla and hype from the new signings of Henrik Mkhitaryan and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has sort of gone away, as both of those guys had anonymous games against Tottenham, and it's sort of the same old problems for Arsenal. And now they are 8 points off the top 4 with only 11 games left, so it really seems dire for Arsenal and Arsene Wenger. I'll also throw a thumbs down to the VCU men's basketball team. They lost for the second time this season to Richmond, which just is catastrophic. They blew a 12-point lead with 8 minutes to go. Johnny Williams was hurt and didn't play, and it really showed. Their point guard play is really bad behind him. Lots of turnovers down the stretch. Dariante Jenkins and Malik Crowfield are not ready to be sort of handling the role of point guard. And losing to Richmond's disastrous. You could VCU could go 2-28 and beat Richmond twice, and it would be a great season. And they could go 28-2 and lose to Richmond twice, and it would be a terrible season. So they've lost to Richmond twice, in addition to their other 11 losses on the year. So luckily they were able to recover and beat Dayton in Anthony Grant's homecoming on the weekend. So that was nice because Justin Tillman's just a monster right now. Went for 37 and 8 in the Siegel Center, his career high. He's one of the best players in the A10 and really the only saving grace for the VCU team right now. Hopefully they can get hot and get a top 4 seed in the A10, but that seems really unlikely right now, and the transition's been really rough. But that's all for me. I'll throw it over to David.
All right, so I have a lot of thumbs to go through. So we'll just run through this. So first of all, thumbs up to the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Foles. I always believed him since 2013 when he threw 7 TDs against the Raiders in one quarter, or one half. I forget which one it was, but it was impressive. It's great to see him return to form and lead Philly to the promised land. Thumbs down to Josh McDaniels. What he did was really unprofessional in my opinion, and if he knew he didn't want to leave New England, he shouldn't have gone through that second interview just before the Super Bowl. He should have told them at least. But thumbs up to Chris Ballard for agreeing to keep everyone that McDaniels brought with him, including the defensive coordinator. Now on to basketball. I'm going to give middle thumbs to the Cavaliers. They really botched that Kyrie Irving trade big time, but I felt that they recognized what they did was wrong and they agreed to rebuild. And by trading away Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade, Shumpert, Fry, they kind of restructured the entire culture, which was the issue. All that, leaks that were coming through weren't exactly good for them. And I feel that, Kobe Altman really did a good job of restructuring that. For baseball, thumbs up to the Brewers. Christian Yelich. That trade was just amazing. They gave up a few prospects and really added a playmaker in left field. I would say as well, thumbs up to the Marlins. That was a win-win trade. They boosted their farm system from dead last to 19th in the league. Really just thumbs down though for the free agent market. It's really been slow moving. It's been a struggle. Darvish finally coming off the board yesterday. 6 years, $126 million to the Cubs, really bolstering that rotation for them and adding a true playmaker and ace to that rotation. And thumbs down to my Orioles right now. Really not signing a free agent and not doing a lot. That's all I have. Now here's Justin.
Am I passing it on it? Okay. Well, hi everybody. I'm late as you can see. Everything's kind of messed up with what I'm doing today. So what are we gonna do? What's good to talk about in the world of sports? For me, nothing. So I'm gonna start off with thumbs down to the Patriots for losing the Super Bowl. Great win, Philadelphia. You guys deserved it. We were pretty bad, especially on defense. Super thumbs down to being a Knicks fan because life's hard and Porzingis tears his knee up and then the world just comes to a complete stop. And then thumbs down to my one baseball tidbit is Darvish going to the Cubs because the Cubs need another pitcher for God knows what reason. Not sports related, but my only happy thing that's getting me through this week is, and it's not Valentine's Day, it's Black Panther comes out on Friday, so should be a fun movie. Encourage everybody to go out and see it. So yeah, that's thumbs. You're gonna keep going out of frame. Still. All right.
Okay, I'm just gonna jump in and do thank you. So thank you to Vince, Justin, Daniel, David, and Aviva, and thank you for watching SportsZone, and join us again next week. And then when I'm done talking, I'm pass it to you.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
What if we? Yeah. I mean, I like to talk with my hands though.
Aviva, talk.
So
Beautiful.
I think that's all I have. So here is. I forgot. I also messed up his name.
I don't know. Those guys.
Should we get closer? Roommates for life.
It's only weird if you think it's weird.
Hey man.
We're on mic 4 right now, so mute whichever one that is. Now I'm gonna tell you a supple story about a little man from a little town.
Stop. Okay.
You're too close to me. Oh no, David, you're not in the shot now.
I know.
You're too close to David. Look at the camera, not yourself.
But how can I not look at something so beautiful?
Okay,
Okay,
can
you
you
like
you,
also
yeah,
need to come
closer.
in. So he was in.
Good.
He was
Guys,
Texas. How many years
One
was he in
big
Texas?
happy.
How many years? I hate you both. Shut up,
But guess what? Welcome to SportsZone.
No, we all have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's do
Okay.
it.
All right.
Oh my god, I'm so happy this is recording right now.
Okay.
This is our bloopers for the entire year.
Okay.
Are we
I
all
have to
ready?
remember
Yes.
what I said.
All right.
Ow.
Guys, we're gonna be the entire blooper reel today.
We are, and it's gonna be sad because people aren't gonna laugh at this blooper reel then.
we're funny.
I'll laugh at it.
5, 4.
I can't. I'm really sorry.
Okay, let's
All right.
go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to SportsZone with your favorite baseball segment, Getting to Third Base. We have.
You could. I'm so sorry. You like messed up for a second. I can't keep a straight face.
Okay, I think the problem is that
Why
you
did I
counted
trust
down.
it?
You don't need to
Yeah,
count
you
down.
All right.
Start.
Well, you want to do the countdown.
Why? I literally
Okay,
did it.
let's go.
You had it.
We're ready. Just start.
All right. And welcome back to SportsZone, to your favorite baseball segment, Getting to Third Base. I'm joined today by Christian Bravo and Aviva Chidell. And
You said it wrong.
No?
no, I didn't. I said Chidell.
It's Chadel.
Yeah,
He
you said
says
it wrong.
Chidel.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Chadel.
Chadel. Just say Aviva. Just say Kristen and Aviva. And
Chadell.
just
Chadel.
Kristen and
It's
Aviva.
Chadel.
Chadel.
You know, it's funny. I have a dog in Serbia named, what was his name?
Okay, doesn't matter. Let's go.
No, he does. It was oh my god.
Doesn't matter.
All right.
Okay, this is gonna fall.
No, it isn't.
No,
if
it
you
isn't.
believe it won't. Then it won't.
Oh my god.
Added bloopers.
Okay.